Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 2:32. Our next case is Mr. Ronald Washington. Mr. Washington, please give us your full name and DOC number.
Ronald Washington, 106426.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. Let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record. Then the board is going to conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we'll allow those people who've indicated they wish to have some input to speak. You have today speaking on your behalf, Ms. Amy Bosworth, Kemp Washington, Dr. Virginia White, and Caitlin Newswanger. You also have here in support, but not speaking, Ms. Mary Ford and Ms. Marvette Washington. At the end, you'll be allowed to make a brief statement before the board votes. Do you understand our process?
Yes, sir.
This is the matter of Ronald Washington, DOC number 106426. His date of birth is November the 18th of 1964. He is a 10th class offender. He has a parole eligibility date of August the 1st of 2021. He is not eligible for good time. He is serving a life sentence on the charge of theft of goods after having been adjudicated a habitual offender. Sentencing date was June the 17th of 2005. Is that information basically correct, Mr. Washington?
Yes, sir.
Washington, your case has been assigned to Mr. Alvin Roche. He will begin our interview process. Would you please answer any questions he may have?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Washington, I want to hear from the classification officer before we start our interview. Mr. Washington has a life sentence. He served in practice for 18 and a half years. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
So tell me what.
Can I clarify the provision? And I wanted to clarify that I'm inmate offender records office.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay. The provision that Mr. Washington was provided is Act 122 of the 2021 legislation, where he is a non-violent lifer and has to serve 15 years to be parole eligible, and there is no criteria required. Therefore, when we calculated the 15-year date, Mr. Washington fell within the perimeters of that legislation and was submitted to the Board of Parole for consideration.
Okay, so that's the same act with offenders with a number of years and served 20 and 45.
Yes, it's exactly the same. It's the same act, Act 122, right. But on the other legislation, it only applies to offenders who are serving 30 years or above, and then they have to do what they call the 2045.
Right.
This 122, Act 122, 2021 legislation, the offender has to do 15 years for a nonviolent crime without having to meet criteria.
No age, no other criteria. Thank you.
No other criteria.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Washington, what you're currently, 58 years old?
Yes, sir.
And we convicted of 10 felons. Tell me, how does a person get convicted of 10 felons?
Well, to be honest with you, a person of my character at the time, I was going through a lot of things, especially dealing with my drug addiction. And it caused me to over and over again relapse into the situation that I put myself in today, for is going out and getting self involved into trouble about stealing. repeatedly.
Your first incarceration was almost 26 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Actually, I'm sorry, 36 years ago.
Yes, sir.
At some time in between 1987 and right now, you should have gotten tired.
Well, I have gotten tired. And I regret it has taken me so long to get tired. But as I will honestly tell you, when you're trapped in a situation for using drugs and things of that nature, it will cause you to linger longer and longer if you have the opportunity to.
But see, sometimes, Mr. Washington, you build up so much baggage, you can't carry it. You've been on supervision 12 times, and you've been revoked 9 times, and you absconded twice. I've never seen somebody that's been revoked 9 times, and 2 of those included absconding your supervision. You left out. So why should I put you on supervision again?
Well, previously in my past, I had a direct attitude of I didn't care about nobody in particular, except for wanting to use drugs and alcohol. And since I have been incarcerated this time, I have enrolled in several different programs here in prison that has enlightened me and given me the tools to function within society as a whole, and has given me the desire to want to take my life back from the.
Okay. So in 18 and a half years, you decided that it's time to do what's right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell me the theft of goods. What did you do?
With the theft of goods?
Yes.
Well, mainly I go out and go into different department stores, and I would steal different things, shirts, pants, what have you, that I could to support my habit of using drugs. That was dominantly it, what I did with thefts, and that derives me to repeat the same cycle that I had been on for years and years. I've tried successfully in the past on my own to try to overcome the addiction, and I just couldn't do it.
Oh, okay. Just answer the question, and we don't need as much editorial behind the answer. Okay. Now you say theft, but I see simple burglary of an inhabited dwelling, resisting an officer, simple robbery, indecent exposure, drug paraphernalia, possession of cocaine, felony theft, simple escape. It goes on and on and on. It's just not shoplifting. It's serious thing where you break into a home or business and persons are present and you may end up doing something else. What was the indecent exposure about?
Oh, urinating out in public.
And what kind of drugs were you consuming?
Cocaine, marijuana, and alcoholism.
How about the forgery charges?
Well, I committed a forgery charge. I was paid by somebody, and I thought maybe that upon me going to go cash the check that I had received for the work that I had done, that the check was legit, but it wasn't. And I got caught for that there.
Okay. Now, let's turn the page on your criminal activity. Let's talk about your program. Tell me the programs that you completed in the last 3 years.
I completed victim awareness. I completed AA, and I also completed living in balance, 1 and 2.
Victim awareness.
Sir?
When did you finish victim awareness?
Oh, I completed it here at LSP.
Okay. When?
That was in 2010.
My question was, give me a list of programs that you completed in the last 3 years.
Thinking for a Change, anger management.
You finished anger management in 2013.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Give me the programs that you completed in the last 3 years. 20, 21, 22, 23.
No.
No.
No, I haven't completed nothing in the last 3 years. But
why?
Because you only have so many classes available.
Okay.
Programs available.
Opposition in this case comes from the judge in the first JDC, opposition from the Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office, opposition from the Caddo Parish District Attorney's Office, and the Chief of Police of Shreveport, Louisiana. Let's talk about your disciplinary conduct. You have 34 disciplinary write-ups, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've had 5 disciplinary write-ups in 2021, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What was the contraband all about? There was contraband write-up in 2021.
Oh, I had some yeast and some raw eggs, and another write-up I had got for our contraband was that I was intoxicated one time for using synthetic marijuana back in that same year. Was there any? You said contraband. You said contraband.
You're fine. You only had one contraband you told her about the yeast. Yeah.
Yes, that's all I had.
What was the aggravated disobedience about?
Aggravated disobedience was about me being late to the work gate. And at the time I was on the...
that was the aggravated work offense. What was the aggravated disobedience about?
Aggravated disobedience.
Because he flat out refused to go to the gate.
Okay, got you. What was the theft about?
He stole butter and something else out the kitchen.
Still stealing.
Yes, sir.
And what was the other aggravated work offense?
Same thing, refuse to come to a gate for work call.
Okay, so Mr. Washington,
Yes, sir.
still taking other people's property and you don't follow rules and you refuse to do what you're supposed to do. You have a low risk assessment. And I see where you're currently enrolled in Thinking for a Change. Have you completed it?
Not exactly. I have about 2 more weeks, two more sessions that we have currently before this program is over with.
But you just told me 5 minutes ago that you completed Thinking for a Change.
No, I didn't say thinking for a change. I never brought that. I said.
Okay. Now, I see you're also enrolled in the GED program. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine right now. We are currently on some tests that we're taking for the high set to determine how much more time and how much more we're gonna need before we take the actual test. And we had a test today, but I couldn't go to the test because I had to come here.
Are you enrolled in GED full time?
Yes, sir.
Good. Are you a trustee?
No, sir.
Let's talk about alcohol and drugs. When did you start using drugs?
I started using drugs around about 1979, somewhere in that.
How old were you?
I was about 13.
And what was your drug of choice?
Marijuana.
Did you graduate to anything other than marijuana?
Not at the age of 13, sir.
Did you graduate anything marijuana at the age of 20?
It was somewhere around that neighborhood, around 21, 22.
And what did you graduate to?
I graduated to use of cocaine.
Did you ever abuse alcohol?
Yes, I used alcohol, but I wasn't just a person that had to have alcohol as much as I had use for cocaine or either marijuana at that time.
Tell me about the treatment that you've received since you've been incarcerated, your substance abuse issues.
Well, I upon going to victim awareness, it taught me a lot about my drug uses and how I had built up a lot of victims in my case over the years and years and years, how I was unaware of the victims that I had accumulated by some of the things that I was doing in society that were wrong.
Mr. Washington, answer my question. What have you done about your substance abuse problem?
Oh, I have went to AA and NA, and I successfully completed the program, and I currently attend several different meetings a month where we go out and share hope and strength about the tools that we have obtained and learn about the disease that we have of being addicts. And it has allowed me the opportunity to pick up some tools that will help me function to be a better person and to not use and to obtain my sobriety for the rest of my life, hopefully.
So the answer is you've not received any substance abuse treatment.
Yes.
One envelope. Would you like remarks, comments, or do you have any concerns about this offense?
I have concerns that he's not being truthful in his statements that he made, because I have nowhere on record that he completed victim awareness or AANA. I do have that he completed substance abuse in 2013, and also his GED. He's been enrolled and dropped several times. His last time he re-enrolled was March 14 of 2023, but he was dropped again on March 31st, 2023 for excessive absence. So he hadn't been going to class.
Thank you, Warden. Thank you, Warden. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Let's hear from supporters. Miss Amy Bosworth.
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you all hear me okay?
Oh, ma'am, we can.
Okay, fantastic. So we were approached, I want to say in January, probably late January, and Caitlin, if I had that date wrong, forgive me, I'm picking up the thread from someone else, about whether or not Mr. Washington could come into treatment upon his parole. As he has reported, he has a history of substance use, and we think he's a good candidate for treatment. That would be something we would make sure there was a bed available for him. We have short-term 28-day treatment. He has the possibility then to apply for either longer-term treatment with us or in the community, and or into transitional housing, which would obviously be something understandably he might need to access. This is Odyssey House's treatment program in New Orleans. We do have a 3.5 program in Lake Charles and one in Morgan City, but we had been approached about the one in New Orleans specifically. I'm not sure if that makes any difference for y'all. I just wanted to put that out there on the table. It's the same service delivery model. It's just in 3 different locations, sorry.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Kemp Washington.
Yes.
Washington.
That's my brother.
Okay, tell us what you'd like us to know about him.
He's unmuted.
Who you want me to tell?
No, he's talking to.
We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Honorable Parole Committee. Like again, my name is Dr. Kemp Washington, retired from U.S. Army after serving 24 years. I'm Ronald L. Washington's oldest brother. I would like to speak to you on behalf of my family, include my sister, Mary, and cousin, Marvette, who are in attendance. We are very grateful for this opportunity given to Ronald to have a chance at life. Our family was very, very close growing up. I have fond memories of Ronald as a child. We know Ronald to be a strong and honest person. However, he chose the wrong path in life, and this had led to his 18 years in prison. Throughout this time, Ronald has faced mistakes that he made in life head on. He faced them head on. And that's a part of being a human being. We're going to do that. We got to face the demons. He has lost many members of the family while he's been in prison. And I know it's been very, very difficult on him and most of us here in his family. He now understands the impact that drugs have on people and their families, especially after the loss of our sister Yvonne. I've seen how Ronald has committed to recovering. Even though we're just one state over, our family plan to help Ron however we can when he's released. I pray that the board will see these changes that Ronald had made in his life and what a good person he is at his core. Ronald has missed funerals, graduations, but I hope they have a chance to be physically present in our lives again. I pray the Honorable Parole Board will grant Ronald an opportunity to come home and demonstrate those changes in his life in order to be a better man and a law-abiding citizen. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. We appreciate your comments. Dr. White, Dr. Virginia White.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Virginia White, and I'm the Client Service Specialist at the Innocence Project New Orleans. And I'm pleased to be addressing the board today on behalf of Mr. Ronald Washington. I've had the opportunity to work with Mr. Washington to develop a reentry plan if he's granted parole today. He has clear goals and appropriate expectations to reaching those goals. And in addition to our support services, he also has strong family support, which some of them are in attendance today, including his brother, sister, cousin, and he also has a daughter. And although they live out of state, they've remained communication with Mr. Washington throughout the years and will continue this support through telephone calls and visits. Mr. Washington, He's recognized the progress he's made in recovery, but he also acknowledges that this is a lifelong process. And from my experience working in substance abuse, awareness is the initial stage in making a positive change. He has the advantage of attending the program at the Odyssey House. And after he finishes that program, he also has the opportunity to move into IPNO's transitional home, where he'll continue to receive direct service support from our staff. In addition to the immediate support we provide, we've also discussed Mr. Washington's plan to work as a cook, and he also has long-term goals of opening his own cafe. I truly value Mr. Washington's self-awareness around his addiction, and we've made a plan for him to cope with aspects of life that may trigger familiar behaviors of the past. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration identifies health, housing, purpose, and community as the 4 vital aspects of recovery. Mr. Washington has a strong support system in all of these areas. He's committed to his faith, and this is evident through his activities and through his continued faith and hope in his recovery process. And it definitely helps him understand and process certain challenges that come up in recovery. I hope that as the board observes today, that Mr. Washington is a smart, peaceful person, and he has a lot of insight to offer. He's had 18 years to reflect and grow. He's aware of the challenges that he may encounter during reentry, and we've helped him prepare on how to face those challenges. We look forward to working with Mr. Washington if he's granted parole today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. White. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Washington, is there anything you'd like to say before we turn it over to Ms. Wenger?
Yes, sir. I like to say victim awareness at the time, it was an incorporated program that is being administered through 100 hours. And I did successfully complete that program back in 2009. But ultimately, I'd like to thank the board for even just allowing me the chance and opportunity to share some of the things that has been transpiring in my mind and my life over the last 18 years. And hopefully that if I am granted the opportunity here today from the board, that y'all would take in consideration that I once was a person that didn't have any care for anything besides my drug uses. But now things have changed and turned around based upon the enlightenment that I have received from God and the tools and understanding that I have received from several different programs here to help me cope with the dependency that I had within this disease, being an addict. And I hope that y'all would take that into consideration, that I have changed only for the better of my condition. And hopefully someday that I can pass it along to other peoples out there in society, that the lifestyle that I once lived was only led by destruction. And now that God has granted me this opportunity to be enlightened by some of the programs and the tools that they have put out there for people to become successful and turn their lives around, that y'all will give me a second chance.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we'll hear from Ms. Newsline.
Yes, good afternoon. Sorry, I was going to say good morning. Nice to see you all. I just want to point out that I do think that Mr. Washington's record, if you look at it, it screams criminal, right? And that's what I've heard a lot today, is that he does have a long criminal history. And there's nothing that can take away from these crimes. Mr. Washington is extremely remorseful of these crimes. He is very candid and real about when he came to prison. He struggled with following rules, and he also struggled with trying to fit in with the wrong group of people, which he has communicated to us. That was one of his problems when he was younger, fitting in with the wrong people, getting caught up with addiction. And when he first came to prison, that was very indicative. It's on paper. You can see that he has write-ups. I do want to clear up and that he is currently in Thinking for a Change. He is currently enrolled in GED classes. The programs that he did complete, he did complete Living in a Balance as part of his recovery. And he did have some relapses after completing that. And Mr. Washington has actually not expressed to you, and maybe because I might have told him not to speak too much about it, but his faith, when I first met him, his faith was the first thing that stuck out to me. And I know that we hear a lot about people's commitment to God and faith, and a lot of people who come to prison and they find God. But that's one of the most remarkable things about Mr. Washington, is the sincerity and how he decided, I'm not going to run around with this crowd anymore. I'm going to stick to myself, and I'm going to have conversations with God and with the church, and I'm going to read my daily bread every day. And I said, well, that's great, but we really do need to get you into some kind of programs, because you need to also show that you are trying to get, better on paper. But it truly is an honest response that Mr. Washington has been trying to maintain his recovery through his relationship with God. And it has definitely made him a more reflective person. He's very insightful. You mentioned, Mr. Roche, about his editorial. This is what Mr. Washington and I joke about as failing to get to the point. But he has a point. He is when he gets to it, you're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. And what he did not have before was structure. And Mr. Washington has been at Camp D, and it's very difficult sometimes to get into programs. He has a very clear reentry plan with structure. It's centered around his recovery. Odyssey House is a very structured environment where he won't even be able to leave for 28 days. And immediately following that, if he chooses to, he can go into the long-term program, or he can go to our transitional house where he will have direct assistance from Dr. Virginia White. So I just wish that you all would see the insightful, smart person that I see today, and somebody that is a very different person than they were before. And for that reason, I respectfully wish that you would grant Mr. Washington's parole today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments, Mr. Rocha. And we,
yes.
Okay, Rocha.
Mr. Chairman.
Sir.
Mr. I came into this hearing today undecided. As young lady said, that your record screams criminal. And I didn't let that get in my way, because the crime that you will utilize for, is suspect, theft for good. So I came in with an open mind and I was undecided. Mr. Washington, you didn't do yourself any favors today. You were not honest with us. You didn't tell me that at the end of March, you will drop the GED program. You told me you took victim awareness, and you took 100-hour pre-release in one of the modules, one of the very small modules deals with victim awareness. Victim awareness is a whole good time program in itself. So based on your performance today, and you were not truthful with us on many occasions, your extensive criminal history, your terrible supervision history, including 9 revocations, 2 situations where you absconded supervision, express opposition from victims and law enforcement, a general disciplinary conduct that's unacceptable. You had 5 Class B write-ups only in 2021. And a lack of rehabilitative programs. I like to see you get more substance abuse treatment before you get released and go to the IC house. I don't think you're ready, so I'm going to deny your request.
Thank you, Mr. Rocha. Ms. Jackson.
All right, Mr. Washington, when I came into this hearing wanting to give you something, because serving a life sentence with theft seems to be really, out of line with the actual charge, the crime that you committed. And I came in wanting to help you, but like Mr. Roche said, you didn't give me anything to work with. You really hear all this talk about how you're committed to your recovery. I see absolutely nothing that you do. You haven't taken programs for a long time. You are untruthful with us about some of the things that you had done. And so I'm not seeing this turnaround. I think other people are looking at you through rose-colored glasses and seeing what they want to see. But I see someone who's not ready, someone who's not changed their mindset, someone who is not equipped to be released, because if you were to be let out today, and you can walk away from the IC house, it's not a locked facility. And you would be right back in a store committing theft because you haven't dealt with your addiction. And I just don't think you're ready. I think you need some more work. I encourage you to do some work to help yourself. And perhaps the next time you might get a different outcome. But for me today, my vote is denied.
You have 2 votes to deny. I'd like to encourage you to work a little harder and look a little more inside. My vote likewise would be the same as my colleagues. So you have 3 votes to deny your parole. Parole has been denied. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Done?